Hey, this is Notser, and today we're going to be taking a look at the California, the Marceau, brand new lighting improvements on some maps, audio as well, and then camouflage related to Unsinkable Sam. He is a famous cat that served on a couple ships. We get the historical camo for those ships at the time of his serving, and also fun cat camo for it. But first, let's take a look at the California, which is going to be a Tier 7 American battleship. This Tier 7 American battleship has 12 356mm guns, on 4 gun turrets. It has a maximum firing range of 17 kilometers, which is honestly pretty shallow for a Tier 7, but that's one of the weaknesses of the Americans. It's high explosive, 5,000, AP double that. Its initial gun velocity is faster than you would expect with something like a 406mm gun, but slower than some of the competition. Turret traverse, 60 seconds. Secondary armament, it is not a secondary ship. It only has 5-kilometer range. Would not consider that at all. AA defense, it has a hell of a lot of AA defense. And I think because it's similar to the Colorado, it will have very well defended Tier 7 AA. For the speed, it's also just like the Colorado. 20.5 knots. Its turn radius is outstanding. Its rudder shift is mediocre. Its surface ejectability is 13.5, which is very usable, honestly. You could conceal that down into, I think, the 11s and the 10s, so I'm fine with that. It's the speed where I've got an issue, and that is a difficult pill to swallow if you're considering picking up a premium. I am someone who has enjoyed ships, but I did not enjoy my slow experience with the mid-tier American battleships. The consumable loadout, damage control party, repair party, spotting aircraft. You can't use a fighter, for example, and we don't know exactly how this repair party is designed. There's multitude of American heal repair parties at this point. It could be short duration or a short cooldown. It could be a improved heal. You know, whenever they buffed the North Carolina, they buffed the Iowa, the Colorado, the heal percentage. I think it's 0.6 instead of 0.5. So that made a noticeable impact on their ability to heal back fire damage and other sorts of damage. So I'm sort of curious about what repair party, but this has a lot of guns, a lot of 356mm guns. This is going to be kind of fun when engaging cruisers and DDs, especially light cruisers as well. And if anyone wants to be broadside to you, well, your AP and your HE is going to work just fine. Overall, it's a solid ship. I've heard people sort of compare it to a 44 refit for the New Mexico or something like that. And yeah, that seems reasonable. But it still has to deal with that speed. Something that doesn't need to deal with the speed, the Marceau. This is a Tier 10 French DD. And if you can spy it, it has 4 gun turrets, and then it has a total of 4 torpedo tubes. So let's get over to the stats on this. So the Marceau is going to be a dual-purpose 127mm gun destroyer. It's going to have outstanding AA, defensive AA fire as a consumable instead of main battery reload, which is a big downside. But it will still have all of the features that you expect for the French. So great speed. The torpedo systems are something that does devastating damage. Unfortunately, the torpedo systems on this, only 60 knots. So you're making a lot of sacrifices for improved AA defense and performance. But this has 8 127mm guns on 4 gun turrets at 11.5 kilometer range. Honestly, that's pretty shallow. I hope that that's not the final number, but it could be because of the nature of the gun caliber itself. Its AP shell is 2600, its HE shell is 21, so it performs pretty well. Gun velocity, initial velocity is 808. I think these will be slightly floaty, and the reload time is 3.5 seconds. Okay, I mean, you don't need main battery reload at 3.5, but main battery reload at 3.5 would be really funny. The torpedo tubes, though, I'm not feeling the 9-kilometer range, 60 knots. I believe this is slightly different because I think right now the Tier 10 has an 8-kilometer range at 75 knots. So it's much easier to hit inside of that 8 kilometer, but you don't have as much leeway to work with. In this instance, this is basically going to have the same type of concealment, but it'll have an extra kilometer of torpedo range, which may lead to more hits on targets. Hopefully the torpedo angles are similar to the Mogador or the Kleber. We have to see that, of course. 44 knot speed. And yeah, once again, the AA, this is going to have, 5.8, 6.0 kilometer AA range versus your typical French, which is, I think, 3.5 or 3.9-ish range of AA maximum effectiveness. So this is going to be interesting. This is sort of it's sort of an emergency AA platform that can rotate around the map effectively. It won't have the kill potential, but it can have sustained DPS, and it can be incredibly effective with its speed because it is French. It is getting the full speed, so you can, with speed flags and speed boost, get it up to 55 knots or 54 knots. That's very useful in objective control, going to help a teammate who is in dire need of AA defense, maybe a friendly DD. As far as the consumables are concerning, damage control party, defensive AA fire, it's replacing the main battery reload, and engine boost, and this is supposed to be the 20% engine boost. Obviously, can't verify that at this stage, but it is a very different ship compared to the mainline French Tier 10 DD, and I appreciate that. They will not share much similarities in the gun velocity, the AAP, everything is different. So from that standpoint, I'm happy this has unique value. I have no idea how effective this platform will be, though, overall. Now, let's talk about something else. Wargaming also detailed with their DevBlog rank sprints, sound and visual improvements, and then new camouflages. Now, the camouflages are particularly interesting to me as I stream with my cats, and they're cat-related, so let's get over to that. In 8.8, there's going to be 2 rank sprints. Similar to the Tier 8 and the Tier 10 rank sprint that we had last patch, this is going to be Tier 7, 6v6, and then Tier 8, 7 versus 7. And I believe the rank sprint, what is it, a day or two? Or is it a rank brawl or whatever? It's a short time of playing ranked. I think it's cool that we're getting 7 and 8. I enjoy other tiers than Tier 10, of course, so I'm looking forward to that. They also are continuing to improve the sound and graphics of the game. The sound system apparently is being updated. The mechanism for how sounds of guns and engines is supposedly supposed to be improved. Now, this is something interesting for me because a lot of people don't know you can enable higher quality audio just by selecting the Ultra client instead of High, and then in your audio settings in game, change it from High to Ultra. It might cause a restart, but it will have a higher fidelity of audio. I think it's like 200 megabytes or so. I don't know if this will couple with it, or it's completely independent, or will this cause us to go from a High Ultra to some sort of combined version of the game? Who knows? Ocean, Big Race, North, Fault Line, Polar, and Islands maps, and also the Philippine port, were updated with the new lighting model that they introduced in 8.6, I believe. They also feature the changed skybox due to the improved technology. So these maps, they should look more realistic. The lighting should be more appropriate, and overall it should feel like a higher quality game visually. So I'm happy for that. Obviously I want to see and compare, but I've enjoyed the lighting engine this patch. I think I'll enjoy it on these maps as well. There have been towns added to Crash Zone Alpha, okay, so we can shoot them. The Bismarck, the Cossack, and the Ark Royal have something in common. They all had a famous cat. Well, one of the most famous cats of World War II serving on them. Unsinkable Sam. Unsinkable Sam basically bailed on the ships when they were sinking, found refuge in nearby vessels, and took up sort of an unofficial mascot for each ship. Wargaming is creating 2 new camouflages for each one of these ships, and we're going to preview them. They work exactly as the base premium camouflages would. Here's all the stats on that. And here's the first one. This is the Unsinkable Sam Bismarck camo. He's got his little like grumpy cat. I love the face of this cat. I would love it to be in an emblem or a badge or something. I like overall the color palette that they chose, sort of a white with sort of a painted paintbrush, where the paint itself is sort of has different opacities, so they layer together to create darkness and light. It looks good. Obviously, it's the Bismarck. Who's going to play the Bismarck? Here is the historical camo that was in use when Unsinkable Sam was on the ship. So that's what they were targeting when creating these historical camos. It looks appropriate. I don't have any thoughts one way or the other. It's nice that they're adding more historical camos. Here is the Unsinkable Sam camouflage for the Cossack. I'm really enjoying the Cossack for clan. Looks cool. Once again, dark to light. It's got a good, nice transition. And of course, it's got that grumpy cat face, which is great. Here is the historical camo for the Cossack. I really like this camo. This looks cool. It's different from the other camo that are available in the Cossack, and I'm curious what the invert will look like. I like the blues and the whites, and I think this is a navy blue as well. Looks good. It's a good camo, and hopefully, I think this is historical, so that's nice. Here's the Ark Royals Unsinkable Sam camo. It looks pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie, because the side of an aircraft carrier is giant, this looks like a billboard or something. Love the icon, love the grumpy face. I would love a flag or something like this. It just is so funny. Once again, light to dark. And then here's the historical camo for the Ark Royal. And I also like this one. Curious what the invert looks like. This reminds me of the Vanguard's camouflage. So inverted Vanguard is this color is a dark blue, sort of that water green blue, and then this is more of like a tan. So I'm curious if that will be the inverted version of this. But overall, with all these announcements, I'm happy. I like the focus on historical. I would honestly love there to be more monthly or every 2 to 3 months emphasis on creating a historical camo that was used by one of these ships, and 2 or 3 at a time. I would love that. I think the game has it's been too long that we haven't received these unique camouflage schemes that we can run with. I honestly think that if Wargaming really wants to make it the best it possibly can be, they would consider maybe converting over to something like the Spider-Man PlayStation 4 game and how it handles camo and skins. Basically, they decoupled the passives, so you could equip a passive, and then you could equip an appearance. I think that would be more my direction that would eventually be for the camo, so that you can enjoy these historical camos, and then you can still be grinding out, free XP, Commander XP, or what have you. I think that would be a nice compromise to allowing players to also buy these, but also still benefit from the passives, because let's face it, as great as these passives are, they don't help you min-max a particular currency grind. And if you're not min-maxing a particular currency grind, you're making the game harder on yourself. So, very happy with all of the different versions of these ships. Very curious to try the California and the Marceau. Tell me what you think. Are these camo appropriate? Do you like the historical camos? Would you ever consider one of these cat camos? I certainly am, of course. And then on top of that, we're getting a tier 7 and a tier 8 rank sprint in 8.8. So I'm liking it. I'm liking the direction of this presented material. Curious to see more of it and obviously play those test ships. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to check out more of my content, you can click the most recent or the most relevant uploads. You could also choose to subscribe to my channel. We do daily World of Warship videos. First impression, how-to, news, review related. You could choose to use my North American recruit invite if you would like. It's on the screen right now. I stream at twitch.tv/Notser. Thank you, have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.